All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy football video. Today, we're going to be breaking down which players were the best winners of the NFL draft in regards to best ball, but also just season-long purposes as well. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. So we're going to start with the quarterbacks, and we're actually going to start out with Geno Smith. Yeah, it's pretty ugly, but for best ball purposes, guys, Geno Smith ended up kind of being a pretty major winner. One, they didn't really select someone that you would worry about potentially taking over for the starting position for him. I assume Cade Klubnik will eventually do that throughout the end of the season, though, because, well, I don't think the Jets really did a great job with their draft personally, but hey, we'll see how it ends up happening. Obviously, attack the tight end position there, gain a receiving tight end, the best tight end on the board there, to pair with Mason Taylor. We are going to see a lot of teams switch to a two tight end system, and so ultimately, I do think Mason Taylor is one of the biggest losers from the draft, but at the same time, the fact that the Jets went out and attacked this position is going to end up being a good thing for Geno Smith. Then obviously they went out and used a top 30 pick on Amari Cooper there, Jr. from Indiana, who is a pretty fun prospect there as well. So they definitely added weapons onto this offense. And so at the start of the season, guys, Geno Smith was a major beneficiary from this draft. For the Jets purposes, it's going to be whoever the rookie quarterback is next year. And he's someone that if you're going through your best ball drafts and you feel like you need another quarterback, he'd be the player that you want, where you just need some depth. He ends up being a pretty darn easy click now, I think, as a result of that. And we see he's going as quarterback number 27 here, guys. Some potential backups are being picked before him, which is pretty darn crazy there. So I think you can pick him with a little bit more confidence now. Again, I don't think he'll start throughout the whole season, but he does end up being someone that we like. Then another major winner, guys, ended up being Tyler Shaw there for the New Orleans Saints. So Shook ended up the season playing extremely good football, guys. To me, I've already planned my flag that he's going to be this year's Drake May, where he's just going to take a massive leap. And that was even before some of the draft picks that the Saints went out and made. And my goodness, I really like them. They ended up getting Bryce Lance late in the draft, which to me kind of does remind me of a Christian Watson type. And that's just a dynamic playmaker to have on the offense. They already have Devon Valet, who I think is a good depth piece to have. And then obviously they went out and got Jordan Tyson as well. Throughout the offseason, guys, they actually got Travis Etienne as well. Like, everything is going well for Tyler Shough, and he is someone that should be able to take a big jump. And the nice part about him right now is in best ball drafts, you can easily pair him up with Chris Olave early in the draft if you want to. Then you might have to reach for Shough a little bit, but then you can get Johnson, Tyson, or potentially even Valet or Lance, late in the draft, and you are sitting pretty with a nice, good value stack that could easily end up not only being good for you at the start of the season, but extremely valuable for you late in the season as well. And then another quarterback who I thought was a major winner actually ends up being Lamar Jackson, guys. They attacked the offense deeply. Obviously, went out and got a guard, and then they go on and get Jacoby Lane in the third round, who is a good kind of contested receiver. And then same thing with Elijah Surratt, where he kind of reminds me more of Cortland Sutton, but he's a good contested ball catcher as well. I think they kind of saw what they needed to replace with Likely leaving, and then they saw DeAndre Hopkins was pretty successful with that last year, and they kind of went out and saw two other receivers that could end up being potentially similar to that and went out and got that type of player. And so, and then they added two tight ends, not one, but two tight ends, which ultimately they clearly attacked the offense here. And I think Lamar Jackson is just someone you can draft with a little bit more confidence here because prior to this, we know that they really did not attack the offense all too much. It was Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. And yeah, Lamar Jackson is going to look very, very appealing now as a pick, and it really just ends up being an easy click at his current ADP, which they have him as quarterback number 2. I have seen him go a little bit later than that and really fall further than that because people are just loading up on Josh Allen and then kind of just settling on Jackson, Burrow, or Daniels. Now I think I think there's a bigger separation. I think it's Allen still and Jackson, and then potentially Burrow. Like, there's another tier there now to me. But still, guys, I will say, like, being able to get Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Tyler Shough extremely late, like, that's pretty darn appealing to me. And then one other quarterback was a massive winner as well throughout this offseason, and that's going to be quarterback Cam Ward there for the Tennessee Titans, guys. So they went out and drafted a receiver really when they didn't even have to do that because they already had Shamir Dekay, who ended up looking pretty darn good last year. He officially is going to be my Parker Washington of this year, where obviously last year, guys, the Jacksonville Jaguars went out and drafted Travis Hunter, and they already had Brian Thomas Jr. Well, the Titans went out and drafted Tate, and they already had, they brought in Wendell Robinson, even though Parker Washington last year, the previous season prior to that, 2 years ago, had a very good season and looked like he could become the player that he became last year. Well, DK has those same vibes now, and so it becomes a pretty interesting situation there. But obviously with them bringing in Robinson, bringing in Tate, they didn't have to draft him. And so he ends up being a major winner from this draft here as well, guys. And he's someone that, again, it's going to be pretty darn easy to stack regardless. I think you can still draft DK pretty late if you guys want to use him in a stack. I think drafting Gunnar Helm with him in a late stack does make sense. Gunnar Helm was one of the bigger winners in this draft as well, where they didn't attack the tight end position really all too much until the 7th round. So yeah, I really love kind of the draft for Cameron Ward and the offseason, but I really love the fact that he's very easy to stack. Like, sure, you're going to have to reach for Tate, but actually I think Wendell Robinson's ADP is going to fall down a bunch now. And he actually becomes one of my favorite receiver picks if that does end up happening, where Robinson's ADP falls a lot. I think he's actually still going to be the receiver number 1 here in this offense, at least for this year. At the very least, he's going to be a safe, reliable target for you guys as well. Maybe it ends up being more like Keenan Allen, where as the season progresses, he falls off, but ends up being a great value for you earlier on in the season. Either way, Cameron Ward, pretty solid quarterback pick now. And then to me, really the biggest winner from this NFL draft was Quinshon Judkins, actually, for the Cleveland Browns. I'm actually really surprised by his current ADP. I feel like 4 years ago, he'd been someone that is like a borderline round 1 pick, but now he's going in the 3rd rounds in a lot of situations. And that feels like such an easy click, especially after this draft where they went out and attacked the offense even more, especially at the receiver position. They went out and got a quarterback as well, which, hey, maybe that ends up helping him there, but they didn't draft a running back either. Yes, they have Dylan Sampson still there, who ends up being a very good kind of backup running back there as well. You could actually handcuff Judkins in a lot of your drafts with him. But at his current ADP, guys, you can easily draft Judkins with a lot of confidence. He was, I would argue, the best rookie on film last year, and now we're getting him at such a discount because, well, they still don't have a quarterback. Don't get me wrong there, but the offense should at least open up a little bit more there for him. And they did go out and get an offensive tackle there, so their first 3 picks ended up being offensive players. And again, I think that more helps Judkins rather than any of the quarterbacks, ultimately speaking. So his current ADP to me, guys, is crazy. Okay. He's not even on the graphic right now. He's going as running back number 22 here, which should not be happening. I would pick him over Scadaboo, Montgomery, Javonte. Then we can have a discussion about Etienne, Henderson, Hall. I think I still would. Bucky Irvin, I would. Kyron, I would. Jacobs, maybe, potentially not. I think that's where we start to get a little bit different. I like him more than Henry. I like him more than Walker. I like him more than Chase Brown. I think he's a little bit safer. Although, guys, Chase Brown ended up being a major winner from this draft. Actually, Derrick Henry, decent winner from this draft as well. That offense got a little bit better, as I mentioned. I like Lamar Jackson. I thought he was a major winner, but Henry benefits a decent amount. And then actually, like DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai were pretty big winners. Josh Jacobs was a pretty major winner as well. I thought for sure the Packers were going to get at least a running back. They did not get a single one. They re-signed Chris Brooks last year, and they're really betting on Marshawn Lloyd to be good to go for the season. That kind of tells me that Lloyd is probably the handcuff that you want with Jacobs. But my goodness, the fact that they did not address the running back room is huge. And then Chuba Hubbard, kind of a winner there as well. But to me, guys, Judkins was the biggest winner. I think you could theoretically draft him as a 9th running back there and feel pretty good about doing that, actually. And then I think we could make the argument that Malik Willis is going to be a loser from this draft because they didn't really give him any offensive weapons. Chris Bell's it. But the biggest winner to me ends up being Jalen Tolbert as a receiver, guys. He's basically going undrafted in best ball drafts. And that's completely wrong. I think he is going to be the receiver number 1 here for this offense, assuming they don't go on and get like someone like A.J. Brown. We'll see if that ends up happening. Greg Dulcich was also a winner here for the Miami Dolphins. Sure, you can make an argument that Caleb Douglas is fine as well. Like, they did attack it, but I don't think they attacked it with anyone that's too substantial. And so I think Jalen Tolbert, who's currently going undrafted, is an awesome pick there for you guys. And what's interesting about Jalen Tolbert is that him and Malik Willis are actually pretty good friends. It's actually part of the reason as to why I think they both ended up in Miami. And so there's already natural chemistry built into that, guys, which ends up being just a further point as to why you want to draft him. And it's not like he's a bad receiver. He's just always been in a crowded receiver room. When the Cowboys had needed him to step up, he did. And now the Miami Dolphins are going to need him to step up as the receiver number 1. And given the fact that he has that chemistry with Malik Willis, I think that's huge. And I think he is a clear beneficiary, even though the Miami Dolphins did address the receiver room. And maybe one of those 2 rookies do hit. But right now, based off his current ADP of being undrafted, it's a great best ball pick. Go on and draft him. And then, yes, guys, another pretty awesome piece in regards to getting you guys some depth in your best ball drafts is going to end up being Jalen Nailor, who was a receiver number 3 that ends up potentially being the receiver number 1 in what is going to probably be a bad offense to the Raiders, but they didn't address either the tight end position, which they didn't have to, don't get me wrong there, or the receiver position. They got Malik Benson, who really was not on my radar at all as a potential receiver. And so feel bad for Mendoza. And they addressed the running back group, which is interesting there with Mike Washington. But Jalen Nailor ends up being a great value pick where you can just kind of draft him and feel pretty confident that he's going to be a producer for you guys and end up having you guys start as a late round pick. That's all you want. And Jalen Nailor now ends up being one of the better late round picks. And now you could actually argue like Trey Tucker, again, is someone that you should be looking at as a decent late round pick as well. Both of those two players are going to end up being on the field a bunch. And then I actually thought the Kansas City Chiefs receiver Tyquan Thornton was a big winner from the draft as well. I thought they might get a little bit more depth there. Just with Xavier Worthy not really making a big leap last year. Rice can't seem to be on the field for a full season. And Thornton was someone that throughout the season last year, when some of the other receivers were a little bit banged up and whatnot, was kind of their top pass catcher, especially with Travis Kelce aging as well. That's another player that kind of benefited Kelce because they did not pick up a tight end. And so really, Thornton and Kelce ended up being pretty solid major winners. And so Thornton is someone that's kind of going undrafted in best ball drafts as well. And you can kind of feel confident now draft him, especially if you have Mahomes as your quarterback. You can just stack him with a late round pick like Thornton as well, which ends up being a pretty solid pick. And I did mention, I think Wendell Robinson is actually going to end up being a winner from this draft in regards to the fact that I still think he'll be the receiver number one here for this offense in regards to fantasy football production, and at least in regards to consistency to give you guys points each and every week. And I think the reason why he's going to win is because his ADP was a little bit too high in regards to where I was comfortable getting to him. And I think his ADP is now going to fall to the point where you're going to feel pretty confident drafting him as well. And then, guys, just real quickly, some tight ends. Tight ends, in a weird way, got overdrafted a bunch this year. But at the same time, a lot of the tight ends were winners. Greg Dulcich. The Miami Dolphins did not get really, I thought, any substantial offensive weapons. We'll see if that ends up playing out. They clearly like him there. He ended up winning. Cade Otton, the Bucs did not attack the tight end position there. You could make an argument for Evan Ingram kind of being a winner. I disagree. I would say I actually really like Justin Jolly, who's a rookie. You could easily draft him. And then Brock Bowers, kind of a winner just in the sense that the Raiders, one, got a quarterback. That's good. But two, did not, again, address the offense really at all in regards to the pass catcher. And then Tucker Kraft. I mean, my goodness, what were my Green Bay Packers doing? There's plenty of tight ends to go out of their way to target, but they did not. And so that obviously means that they think Tucker Kraft is going to be good to go. And that's just a void of confidence in him because I'm not confident in the backups for the Packers. Now, yes, they're probably going to pick up either David Njoku or Zach Ertz in free agency now, but for the time being, Tucker Kraft was a major winner. And then just worth calling out, guys, I do think all of these rookies ended up being pretty good winners in regards to their landing spots. They're going to be very solid late round picks you can get to. Nick Singleton ends up going to the Tennessee Titans, who his competition is going to be Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. I kind of like that spot. Emmett Johnson ends up going to the Kansas City Chiefs as well, who, yes, they did sign Kenneth Walker, but we know the Seattle Seahawks were always hesitant to give Kenneth Walker a full workload. That's the thing. Emmett Johnson ends up being a very valuable pick for us. And then Price ends up going to the Seattle Seahawks, filling in for Kenneth Walker. And I think that's actually a smash landing spot there for Price and also the Seattle Seahawks. I really like that pick, and he's someone that, yes, his ADP is probably going to rise up a decent amount, but he was definitely a winner and somebody you can pick. And then we're looking at some later round rookie receiver picks that you can draft with a lot of confidence now late in your drafts. Skyler Bell ends up going to the Buffalo Bills. They desperately need a receiver one, but I think it's going to be a receiver by committee there for him, and I think he's going to be part of that committee. Antonio Williams, to me, was really just the biggest rookie winner in general. Ends up going to the Washington Commanders, which ends up being a phenomenal spot there for him. He's one of my favorite picks now in best ball drafts. In a lot of spots was going undrafted. I don't think that'll be the case anymore. I hope his ADP doesn't rise too much because he ends up really being the player that benefited the most. And then Elijah Surratt for the Baltimore Ravens. I like him more than Jacoby Lane, although both of them end up in a pretty phenomenal spot. One of those two are going to be the receiver number 2 for the Baltimore Ravens. And then Justin Jolly for the Denver Broncos, guys, ends up in a pretty good spot there for Denver, who desperately wants their tight end to be part of the offense. And maybe Jolly will now provide that there for them.